A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. This episode is brought to you by Glisten Heating and Air. You can reach them at 217-341-3129 or visit glistenheatingandair.com. That's Glisson. This is owned and operated by Gibbs Gleason himself, a member of the 2000 Pleasant Plains baseball team that were state champs. That's the Dusty Bensko era, former guest. This guy's in the baseball community. He helps coach his son, who's in the local travel scene. This truly is the pros pro for HVAC in the area. I mean, this is a who's who of former pros that have used him. Let's talk about Bobby Erickson, Jason Worth, Ryan Murphy, Jason Knadler, Justin Knadler, Brad Owens, Greg Morantz, Jason Washam, Eric Easley. His reviews speak for themselves. Call Glisten Heating and Air. They care about your air. We appreciate you. This episode is being brought to you by Eric Easley of the Easley Real Estate Team with the Real Estate Group. This team consists of Eric, Jamie Murphy, and Caitlin Fry. They can be reached at 217-971-3256 or at theeasleysalesteam.com. Eric was a standout quarterback and shortstop at Southeast back in the mid-90s and later starred at Western Illinois in baseball. Also one of the best umpires around this area for many years, teaming up with Bobby Erickson. He sold houses for all kinds of baseball dudes in the area. The Knadler brothers, Justin and Jason, Ryan Murphy, Todd Schneller, the Savota family. And when it was time for Corey to sell his house and buy his new house, there's only one place he went. That's Eric Easley and the Easley Real Estate Team. So go see these guys for all your real estate needs. We really appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Sheehan & Sheehan Lawyers, located at 1215 South 4th Street, Suite A, 217-544-0701. Go see them for all your adoption, ag law, business commercial law, estate planning, real estate planning, and personal injury needs. I'm talking Pat Sr., Pat Jr., and Willie. I grew up playing ball with Willie. Pat Jr. was a heck of a ball player at SHG, SCI, and the U of I. We appreciate you guys. We are also brought to you by Chad Marshick and Body Cemetery, located at 2201 West White Oaks Drive, 217-793-9972, bodycemetery.com. Go see Chad Marshick, the owner, for all your personal training needs. He was the trainer to Ryan O'Malley, Jason and Justin Knadler, Eric Jokic. He can train any population. He's one of my favorite people in the world. We really appreciate you, Body Cemetery. Go see Chad and his team of trainers. We are also brought to you by Josh Badman of Radon Fighters. He can be reached at 217-823-9536. This is a great guy. He's my fellow firefighter. Use post-game spread as a code to save $25 on a radon inspection. If you're buying a home or just want peace of mind for radon in your house, please give Josh a call. He was a standout player at Morrisonville back in the day and then played at SCI for Coach Torr in the early 2000s. Go see Radon Fighters. We are also brought to you by Milner Dentistry, located at 755 South Grand Avenue West. They can be reached at 217-528-3384. Dr. Ty and his staff are incredible. The place is clean. They do amazing work. They can handle all your dentistry needs. Thanks again to Dr. Ty for agreeing to sponsor us here. He was a standout at Rochester, SCI, and then later had a really cool story of walking on at the U of I. Have a ton of respect for this guy. Please go support Dr. Ty and Milner Dentistry. We are also brought to you by Jason Knadler and the Bank of Springfield. They have a whole baseball team over there. I'm talking Jason Knadler, Justin Knadler, Timmy Ballin Wallen, Eric Weaver, Ryan Murphy, Greg Morantz, Murph Mathiet, Frank Stefano. I trust these guys. I respect these guys. Go see them for all your banking needs. Bank boldly with BOS. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Cornerstone Financial Services, specifically the founder and my buddy, Ryan Kaiser. We were part of the Dance Dads together. We met while our daughters were doing ballet. Love this guy. They're a huge baseball family. His son plays for the Arsenal. They're doing a baseball stadium tour. You can get a hold of Ryan he specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, and is a certified financial planner. Love this guy. Go support them. Appreciate you. Okay, we are back we're going to call this part 2. We took a little break now. We've kind of gone through, Corey growing up, mom and dad, all these steps he kind of took to get where he's at now. We went through his football career, kind of how that went, how others saw him, how he saw how it went. Now we're going to get to basketball, and this is going to be really cool. There's some great stories here, some great clips. I brought in some interesting people to talk with here. I talked to I've got a Pt.2 story. I've got some Bobby Erickson. I've got some Springer stuff. Victor Chukudebe, Blake Turner, Coach Bob Nika. Springer described, and you guys are friends, right?
Yeah.
You and Spring?
Yep.
He said, everyone knows that you always guarded, the guy when you were playing high school basketball. That was your thing, suffocating defense. He said when you might have guarded him a few times, he said it was one of the most humbling experiences of his life. Like it's something like, he goes, it's one thing to be guarded hard. It's another thing to not be able to move left or right. Like, I knew I wasn't going to get the ball, but it was like he was just so, for lack of a better term, in my jockstrap. Like, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get the ball. I couldn't move. He was stronger than me. He was faster than me. And, his arms are, crazy long. And that's another thing people talk about. They talked about your hand size and how long your arms are. And I'm looking at you and I see it. And looking at the videos that you've shown me, people talk about your arms hang down to your dang knees. Have you ever had your wingspan checked?
Yeah, it's crazy. They say that your wingspan should be your height, right?
Yeah,
well,
relatively.
My wingspan is 6 inches longer than my height.
Is it really?
So I think I got cheated, man. I should be about 6'2", 6'3".
Is that how tall Bobby is?
Yeah.
Yep. Casey's probably 6'2"-ish.
Yep.
Raj is in that range too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all there. Not me. Both of my kids are.
How tall are they?
Brody's just over 6 foot, and Crew's a legit 6'3".
Yeah.
So I'm like the only Erickson dude that didn't make 6 foot.
Similar in my family. I come from a long line of of athletes as well, a bunch of collegiate and professional guys, and I thought I was going to be 6'2". All the men in my family are 6'1", 6'2", 6'4", and I'm like, dang man, I only got to 5'11". Like,
yeah.
Sometimes that's just how it be.
Yeah. What do you do? That's something you can't control, right?
I kept thinking, I was like, man, I'm about to hit my second growth spurt, because I hit one in like middle school where I shot to a bench, about 5'10", 5'11", and then that was kind of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of, when do you feel like you stopped growing height-wise?
I think for some reason I feel like in my freshman football program I was listed as 5'9".
Okay.
So I was pretty close.
Pretty close to your yeah. And then what weight-wise, what were you in high school?
Actually, I think I was listed as 5'9", 165.
Were you that as a senior? You looked.
No,
everyone talks about how strong you were.
Yeah,
so
I was more, whatever, 5'10", 5'11". I was probably about 185, something like that.
Yep, stout. All right, man. Moving on to basketball here, and you would have had the legendary Coach Nika for a year or two. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
then for 2 years.
2 years, and then Coach Patton after that.
Yep.
Right, and you had a lot of success there, and you played with some dogs, man. Like this was like the era of Lanphier basketball. I remember going to some of these games, and you guys might as well have been in the NBA to me. And like I'm to Corey, to Brad, to all these guys around my age, and like watching them dunk and dominate and do all that shit. And you were a part of that. You had your role, and I mean these guys were scorers, right? Like Victor, the Walkers, TJ, but you had your own role, and it was lockdown, right?
Right.
Just locking people up. You talked about you loved stopping people and kind of enforcing your will on them. Why don't we start with a couple clips, and then kind of we can riff off that. So let's start with so Pt.2, who you would have played some sports against. Here we go. Pt.2, fast break, Corey.
I met him on a basketball court. I played for Southeast. He played for Lanphier. And trying to get around him, his arms, I mean, I'm just dribbling up the ball. His arms, he would reach out. He'd be a sofa length away. He would just reach out and poke check the ball away from my dribble. I'm like, how? It didn't make sense. Like, how are his arms reaching out this far? I swear, his arms, just standing, were below his knees. Yeah. And then I remember taking a fast break, and him being so fast, he beat me. I'm dribbling. He beat me to the other end of the court and swatted my shot away, and I don't even think he jumped. Like his arms are so long, and his hands were so big, his forearms. I mean, I've never seen a man built like that.
Yeah, different.
That's cool. Let's back up a little bit. Going into high school, did you have any thoughts like I'm going to play varsity, or it just so happened like that? Like,
no, man.
How'd this go?
I actually, I mean, I scored a little bit more in junior high than I did in high school. You know, I've taken a lot of heat over the years because everyone says that I didn't shoot, you know,
right,
or wouldn't shoot or whatever. But I mean, you just said it yourself with our starting lineup. I didn't have to shoot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Victor said that. Victor said that they were always getting on you, like, shoot it, man, like shoot the ball.
Yeah. I felt like, you know, as far as basketball was concerned, going into high school, it didn't even cross my mind I might play varsity.
Yeah.
You know, I knew I was a decent player, and I don't know how good they were the year before, and I mean there's all kinds of talent crawling around Lanphier, any year, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely not on my radar. You know, I just did a couple. I did a couple of things pretty well. You know, I took care of the ball.
Yeah.
You know, I could handle the ball,
mm-hmm.
and I played good defense, and I
Yeah.
figured that was my best way to get on the court.
Right.
You know, and it just so happened it worked out that there was a spot for me on the varsity. You know, my first year. You know, so you know, we weren't very good.
Right.
You know, I can't even tell you what our record was.
But then after that, you were a part of like the heyday. Like, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, just very fortunate to have that group coming in behind me. You know, a year younger, and they were awesome.
How talented were those guys? Can you talk about them a little bit? Tell me about them walkers.
Can jump out the gym.
Yeah.
Jeff is flat out best pure shooter I've ever seen in high school.
Yeah.
You know, Victor tough. He basically controlled the boards.
Yeah.
Leonard same way. You know, he wasn't as thick as Vic was, but he was big, dude. And like all of those guys are athletic. I mean, they all went D1. All four of them went D1. TJ just happened to go for track.
Yeah, right.
You know, but one guy, like they actually called him the Fab Five, because Michigan, you know, Michigan's basketball program with Jalen Rose and them.
Weber and them.
It was around the same time.
Yeah.
And these kids come in and they're the Fab Five.
Carlos
Kincaid was the fifth one.
Okay.
And he was a tremendous rebounder.
Yeah.
I mean, tremendous. And he didn't, for some reason, he didn't get pushed like the other four.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because he wasn't as tall, but he was definitely as talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I bet we were fun to watch, right?
Yeah. That was so. I mean, I mean, Victor Chukudebe might as well have been like 10 feet tall to me when I was 10 years old. I'm like, this is a mountain of a man, you know, and like, it was funny for me calling him. Like, he got a very deep voice, you know, and I'm like, oh man, that's Victor Chukudebe. I think he's doing well. He's like, he's a principal somewhere. It's either Iowa or Wisconsin or something.
Really?
I want to say Iowa, but yeah, he's doing well. Anyway, I've got some Coach Bob Nika quotes here. Love this guy. You know, I grew up playing with his grandson, Bobby. and I believe Nick Bramlett is also in his family as well. So, Coach Nika was always around our baseball games growing up. Fiery guy, you know. I remember him getting banished to right field a few times for being so fiery, like getting after umpires and whatnot. But he just turned 87, sharp as a tack. Here we go. Coach Bob Nika glowed about you, man. Like, he was so excited to talk about you. He was way ahead of his age mentally and physically. One of my favorite players I ever got to coach. Corey was an absolute dog on defense. For being a quiet kid, he was the loudest guy on the floor. 100% hustle and enforced his will on you. You were in for a very rough night if Corey was guarding you. Here we go. I've got a clip here. Coach Nika, better attitude.
I don't know if I had a player that had a better attitude than Corey. I had players that were good attitudes like him, but he was outstanding in that way.
That's good. All right. His ability and body control was so impressive. His attitude towards playing was so top-notch, one of the best athletes I ever coached. Corey could do a lot of things in a lot of sports, an extremely hard worker, the best defender I ever coached. And then here we go. Coach Nika on Corey locking up Jerry Hester. And, like, everyone wants to tell the Jerry Hester story, right? That's, like, one of your, like, lore legends about this guy. Here we go.
Excuse me, it was Manuel. They had so many good players. I don't remember them all, but anyhow, we're playing them. Corey's a freshman, and play him at home. And I said, well, we're going to play man-to-man. And I said, Corey, I want you guard. I wish I would remember his name. But anyhow.
Jerry Hester. Is it, Coach, is it Jerry Hester?
I think it was.
Yep.
And I said, you stay with him no matter where he goes. You stay with him. If he heads for the timeout, don't go across the line, but go help him to the timeout even. And, I mean, he gave him a fit, and I think we beat him that night.
I think you did too. Yeah. Yep, you did.
And then before we get to that last one, then we'll circle back to that. All right, here we go. There's the funny one. Coach Nika, get in his jock strap. Here we go.
Well, great.
I mean, that old saying about get in his jock strap.
Yeah.
He did everything but that. I remember going back to the huddle a couple of times, if I recall right. The Peoria player kept looking over his shoulder at Corey. And, he probably would like to kick him in the rear end because he was probably a freshman. Corey's a freshman, and he's a senior, and he's one of the better players in the state. But he gave him a fit.
All right, man. Let's talk about it. We're going to talk about it more. Everyone's got something to say about the Jerry Hester game. If you guys don't know, Jerry Hester was, an All-State. I'm not sure if he was Mr. Basketball. I should know that. But, went on to play at U of I, probably 6'6", right?
Yes.
From Manual, one of the best players in the state. And your assignment, from what I think I know, was always the best player. I mean, you ended up. There's another story coming up here about guarding Sergio McLean. So you were like, it's funny that there's this roster full of D1 guys, and they're all pretty tall guys, right? Like the Walkers and all those guys. Yeah. And you're 5'11", locking down Jerry Hester. So can I hear about what you remember about that night guarding Jerry Hester?
Just one thing in particular. We got tangled up trying to get a rebound. I can't even remember if it was offensive or defensive end of the court, but I had him so pissed off. He basically I'm not sure how he'd do it, like kind of clotheslined me and grabbed me at the same time and threw me into the second row. Oh, he was bent for sure. He was bent. But like I said, man, people would make a big deal about it to me, and I think I kind of fed off of that, and I think I got a little bit dirty with it, sometimes. But like I said before, man, that was my ticket to stay on the court.
Yeah.
And if people, if the coaches invested in me to do that, then I knew I had a job. You know.
And it's funny you say that because multiple people talked about, Corey wasn't dirty, but he was going to be physical with you.
Yeah.
And, he wasn't going to shy away from contact. And if he had a chance to, go for the ball or bump you into the stands, he might choose the stands.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. I wasn't necessarily, I'm sure I was on the borderline of being dirty, because I would, away from the ball, I'd put an elbow in your chest and just a reminder that I'm there,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was fun. I mean, like my friends would even come to the games and, and after the game they'd be like, dude, remember in the third quarter when you're fucking beating on him, and it was. I mean, it just added another dimension to playing a badass game,
And this is the perfect segue. I've got a clip here from Bobby, and I had to heavily edit this because Bobby, this is a person that people would know in the community, and we just don't need to put his name out there like that. You'll know who this is, and he'll know who this is if he hears this. So here we go. Bobby Erickson, Dad, I almost dropped him.
So the first game of the year, play Griffin, and we played Griffin, and about halfway through the first quarter, there's a loose ball over by the bench, and the guy and him and another guy. I mean, I'll tell you his name if you don't repeat it.
Sure.
Anyway,
amazing, yeah.
So but Corey went after the loose ball, and like I said, senior, Corey hit him and drove him into the seats.
Really?
Like not really going for the ball. He made it look like he sort of was going for the ball, and I mean he drove him right into the seats.
Really?
Just a mess. People come out and kind of and after the game, I said, Corey, what's the matter with you? You do stuff like that, you can get kicked out of a game. I said, I don't think they knew what you were doing, but what was you doing? He goes, we were lined up in the jump circle before the game, and he spit on my foot and called me a punk rookie.
Really?
He said, Dad, I almost dropped him right there, and I knew I'd get kicked out.
You remember this?
I remember driving him in the seats. I'm not sure why.
You know who I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I know who you're talking about for sure.
And there's another funny story that Bobby shared with me about Jeb Odom. Remember that name?
Mm-hmm.
Would have been a quarterback for Taylorville. He might be their head coach now, I think. But also a standout basketball player. I think he played college football somewhere. But anyway, there's a story about you like rocking him out of the sidelines in football. And then, like, later on, during basketball season, you rocked him again and, like, knocked him into the stands. And apparently he got up, like, he was ready to do some things. And then he saw that it was Corey Erickson, and he's like, no, maybe that's a bad idea. I think I should think twice about this.
Yeah, I've heard my dad tell that story before. I do remember when I hit him. By the way, Jeb was, he was a legit quarterback.
Oh,
man.
yeah, stud.
Back in the times we were talking about when
he threw it.
Yeah, when teams didn't throw it that much, like they threw it. Taylorville, they threw the ball, and he was good. Yeah. He was good.
Yep.
I remember, kind of like I was saying before, how I always my football coaches gave me free reign to stand wherever I wanted as a free safety, and that particular play, it was like a quarterback keeper or a scramble or something, and he didn't see me come around, or he came around the end and didn't see me, and I did. I lit him up pretty good. And my dad says that he got blasted all the way to the track.
Yeah.
That's a long way. I don't know if he went that far, but he definitely felt it.
That's perfect. I got another Bobby one here. This one's called Waiting at Half Court.
But he did. He never said a word. He did everything. Things that little kids don't like to do, like play defense in basketball. He just waited at the half court line when he was, 6, 7, 8 year old. He just waited at the line and just took the ball away from people, And in football, it's the same way. Nobody liked to hit. Corey ran into people.
Yeah.
When he was
like
8, 9 years old, started to play. Yeah, he didn't dive and tackle. He just smacked into him and killed him and knocked him over. He did all these things that you think, oh, my God, I just hope he doesn't get hurt, because he wasn't scared of anything. He did a lot of those things that he shouldn't have done.
All right, here we go. Another Bobby. This one's Sergio McLean. So if you guys don't remember this name, big-time stud at Peoria Manual during their heyday. Went on to have a strong career at U of I, and he was a thick boy. Like Serge is 6'4", 250, 260. I remember the football team recruiting him to try to play football. Like, looked like a linebacker playing basketball, if I remember that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you remember him too?
Yeah, and smooth.
Yeah, an absolute great athlete. So here's Bobby, Sergio McLean.
And we actually kept playing Peoria Manual for a while. And Corey guarded Serge McLean. Okay, you know how big he was.
Oh, big
okay,
boy.
they got they mixed it up at half court. It was kind of funny. Some of the people talked about for a long time. They mixed it up and squared off at half court, him and Serge, and the refs grabbed Corey.
Really?
That's what we all thought was funny. Like, here they grabbed the kid who's 5'10" or 11, and Serge McLean was what, 6'3" or 4, 240?
Yeah.
Big. And they grabbed Corey and pulled him off, and the crowd just went crazy. Like, are you kidding me? But that's awesome. He did it without, he never showed any motion.
Yeah.
He just played, and you couldn't get him to act up. That was the best part. It was fun to watch. I just felt sorry for some of the kids that he guarded because poor kids just got beat up.
That's what a lot of people have said that. They're like, I felt sorry for who you were guarding. And just they're in for the night. Do you have any comments about guarding Serge? Remember that?
I honestly remember Sergio. I don't remember any particular thing that he and I got into it over. Honestly, Blake, it happened every game.
Yeah.
That just meant I was doing my job.
Yeah, ruffling feathers and getting people.
Yeah. I was called every name in the book every game.
Would you say anything back, or would you just wear it?
Not really. Sometimes I'd laugh.
Because you knew you were doing what you wanted, or you were doing your job.
Yeah,
like you were disrupting their game, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. But again, it was like a game within a game, and the more people talked about it to me, I just kind of fed off of it, And it's kind of still a thing, man. It's kind of funny,
I love that. Moving on to I've got me an Adam Springer story here. He's going to tell the Hester story. I first knew about it reading. I go back and read all the articles I can find too, and your article. When you were inducted into the Springfield Sports Hall of Fame has some Springer quotes in it. And so I was like, I got to hear about this. And I tried my best to get a hold of Hester. He's an insurance agent in Champaign.
Really?
Sent him multiple emails, called him multiple times. I guess this memory is still too painful for him to talk about. So he never got back to me. So here we go. Adam Springer, Adam Springer was an absolute baller himself. Here we go. Hester's story.
I knew you were going to ask that because everybody always asks me that. So I knew Jerry and worked with him, and Jerry was Mr. Basketball, and I remember him coming in, and they were excellent. And they were playing, all the freshmen, sophomore guys, which was Chikadebe, Walkers, and Jumper, and all those guys. And then Corey was the only. I think he was a senior, might have been a junior at the time, probably a junior, I think it was. And Jerry's like, who is this guy? Jerry's 6'6", long, lanky. Strong though, and Corey locked him. That was the thing. Nobody, you literally couldn't get around him. Like I said, not a great shooter, nothing like that, but he didn't care. He was more of a guy that flat out just wanted to beat you, and that's how he could beat you every time. Obviously he was athletic, and if you passed it to him, he wouldn't pass him an open shot, but he'd rather facilitate and play D and just beat you.
Love that. Springer's the best. And you guys have maintained a friendship moving forward, haven't you? And you guys still?
Yeah.
Love Springer.
Yep.
You want to hear some Victor stuff?
Sure.
Victor Chukudebe, Lanphier, great. U of I went to play some pro ball. Here's some quotes, and I got one clip from Victor here. First started knowing Corey while I was at Washington Middle School. He was a starting point guard at Lanphier. Would see him around the neighborhood, around the block of Northgate, Guido Park, Black Avenue, that kind of area. Was a great defensive presence. Never needed help. Would lock down whoever he was defending. I remember him locking down Jerry Hester. One of the toughest guys I knew. That's cool to hear. Would play through injuries that would make people not want to leave the house. And here we go. Corey's role on the team. Victor Chukudebe.
Yeah, I just remember coming in and Corey was a starting point guard, initially. And I think his leadership was pretty much underrated because he wasn't very vocal. But he definitely led by example, being the first one there, most times the last to lead. Just extreme toughness. He had a great shot. We used to get upset because he didn't shoot as often as we thought he should. But that's just a testament to his leadership. He knew that we kind of had big names coming in, so he wanted to make sure that we were highlighted, spotlighted, and we were happy. But we also wanted him to shoot because that would take a lot of pressure off of us. So oftentimes, you look in the box score, he'd only have about 3 or 4 shots. He'd be, 2 for 4, 3 for 4, 5 for 5, and we used to get on him about shooting more. And that's definitely something that I remember.
So you did not care about scoring? Like, it didn't matter to you if you did 2 points, 4 points, 0 points, or any ego there with that?
Not really, man. I mean, looking back on it now, it's like, damn, why didn't I? Because because scoring's fun, Scoring
is fun. Yeah.
So I'm not sure why, but I was also playing with 3 D1, or 3 D1 basketball
20
players.
guys that could put it in the basket.
Yeah,
Right.
And we had other guys on the bench that could play too. I mean, if I go out there, and shoot a bunch and don't score, then
people be mad at you.
Then I
like,
suck.
Hey, why aren't you giving it to Jeff or Victor?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
That makes sense.
No, and like you said, like all my friends and some family members will give me shit about it, but it wasn't like I was like, passing up wide open shots.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It wasn't ridiculous
or
like that.
breakaway layups, like dribbling it out.
You would
or
take
some
those.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I didn't pass up good shots. I probably did at times, but maybe I passed it up for a better shot.
Yeah.
And
people also talk about how strong of a ball handler you were. And then I've gotten conflicting reports on your shooting. Some said you were a marksman, 3-point shooter. Some said you weren't that great of a shooter. Where do you think you fell on that spectrum?
Nah, I'm not going to say I'm a great shooter.
Yeah.
I wasn't bad, you know, but I could also get to the hoop,
Yeah, for sure.
So one thing that kind of sucks is, when you're on the playground, or in this case in my backyard or my driveway, playing, we're going between our legs, we're behind the back, we're trying everything, and it really wasn't something that people did back then.
No, that's like, the street ball aspect of it.
You, like I never wanted to get looked at as being a hot dog or something, so I never did it. But
you could.
But it kind of, looking back on
stifled you a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I could have been way. It would have been more fun being able to use all those different skills. You
could have done some white chocolate stuff.
Yeah, dude.
Some Jason Williams, J-Dub. Yeah, I love hearing that stuff. Man, coming up next, Blake Turner. I had such a great conversation with this guy. He was so fired up to talk about you. Obviously, you guys are absolute boys. He had some great stories. Current, head coach at Lanphier. I think he's been there for 12 or 13 years. Had a strong college career too. Here we go. I got some quotes for you, and let's riff off these. He said, "That's my dog. He and I are real tight." He said, "We competed in all sports growing up. Sandy Koufax, JFL. He was a 3-sport guy just like me. I got to witness his greatness in 3 sports. We played the same positions. I consider myself to be good, but Corey is Corey. That's a whole nother level. Tough for me with the coaches to handle Corey coming in and essentially bumping me to other positions, but was never tough between Corey and I. And I already kind of touched on this a little bit. He said always tight, and he goes, and I thought that was special."
Yeah. Yep. No, it definitely was, man.
That is cool. It's easy to get lost in that. Like if you're competing with another guy and like there's like some little animosity, like
sure,
but that's cool that you guys didn't have that. Always valued our relationship. We competed against each other a ton, but it never affected our friendship. Corey was a soldier on the football field. Anyone would attest to that. And then let's play a couple here. Blake Turner on Corey being the CS8 GOAT.
You have any opinion there?
I totally agree. I don't think that there's anyone that's done it at the level that he has. And, you talk about, there's guys that have made it further on the professional level, and I understand that. Baseball's hard to get into, especially as a shortstop. And, Corey's one of those kids that probably could have went and played Division I sports in all three if he wanted to, you know what I mean? And just, just his – and like I said, it was just his toughness, man. Just, he was tough as hell on football. He wasn't scared to get hit. He wasn't scared to give a hit. He was, he was tough as, and I don't ever like to bring race into a thing, and I don't want this to be misconstrued the wrong way. But now when you look at basketball, there was a time when the white kids were intimidated by black kids on the basketball court, I feel like. Now, not so much. But Corey was never intimidated. Even way back then, when Peoria Manual comes in, that's one of the articles that I have cut out in my office right now. If you look at the newspaper article, it says another top 10 team falls to Lanphier, and then it says Turner hits 3-pointer to give Lions win over Manual. But the real tale to that was Corey Gard and Jerry Hester, who was a all-stater guy, up for Mr. Basketball, and he locked them up and kept us in the game. And it was just, but it was like, they were like nasty Peoria guys. They were throwing elbows and cheap shots, and he just never backed down, man. And he's one of those guys that earns the respect of the guys that are out there with him, and I think that's the best way to say it as an athlete.
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool.
You got the respect of your peers.
Yeah.
Big time.
No, Blake's, man, he's my guy. He's awesome.
I love that. Corey, this is on Jerry Hester a little more. Corey locked him up, face guarded him the whole time. Corey stopped Hester, and that's why we won. He never backed down from a challenge. There's also tales of you locking down Tyrone Lee at SHS, who was an absolute stud, Tyrone Lee or Stephen Dixon? Would it have been?
Well,
were they similar?
Tyrone was a year. I think Tyrone was a year older than me.
Okay.
Kind of two different style of players. But I tell you, Steve tore me up in the city tournament.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they beat us. He was only a freshman. I was a senior, and Coach Patton was like, "Hey, we're gonna match up with Dixon tonight."
Yeah.
You shut him down, we win. You know, and
he was so talented.
Yeah, I mean, we go in at halftime, and I don't know who said it. It might have been Coach Patton. Somebody was like, "Hey, man, you're doing a pretty good job on Dixon. Just keep it up." And I think he had 20 points at that point. he ended up dropping 30 on me, and I saw the video of the game afterwards, and I tried everything, man. I couldn't stop him.
Some guys are just really talented.
Yeah, I couldn't stop him.
It's like how they talk about, slowing down like a LeBron or those guys. Like, you're not going to lock them down. You just hope to disrupt them in some ways.
Right.
Like maybe they don't get 30, maybe they only get 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Further going down the line here. Here we go. Talking about you as a basketball player. Here's another Blake Turner clip.
As a basketball player, I think it was just his toughness, his drive. He was a hell of a defender, and he was just always going to work and compete. And we were kind of up and down, kind of middle of the road, and we were there at the end of Nika and the beginning of Patton, so we went through a transition together. And I just think that like I said, you could always depend on his toughness no matter what we were doing. He was always going to compete, never wanted to lose. And, he wasn't the most talented basketball player. I think that probably basketball may have been his least, the sport that he was the least talented in, but still good enough to be a 4-year starter. You know what I mean? So I just think that, his toughness is what always stood out about him. But, even with that being said, he always had fun, man. We always had fun. Yeah. There's so many things that I just can't and I'm sure there's probably a lot of his teammates, but, there's so many things that I just can't tell you that, we'd do in practice, or, you know, we had little jokes we did in practice. We had little games we'd play in practice, just, you know, while coaches, cause, you know, just being kids, you know, and
of course,
just fun stuff, man.
Love that.
Corey's a daredevil too, if nobody ever told you that.
You want to go to the next clip then? Because that's about the daredevil.
Yeah, sure.
Let's go?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Blake Turner, climbing light poles. This is going to be the start of the theme of this.
Fuck, dude, climbing light poles, jumping on moving trains over on the railroad tracks.
Really?
Like I said, stuff that you don't, oh, God, yeah, dude. I remember seeing my life flash before my eyes, dude. His mom had a convertible Chrysler LeBaron, and it was me and him, and I think Joe Schroeder, and maybe one other guy, and we're out, you know, just out at the lake, just joyriding. Like, we weren't drinking or smoking or any shit like that. Just out, just having fun riding. You know when teenagers get their parents' cars and shit, but like, he's going 80. He's going 80 on the wrong lane, going around blind curves at the lake. You know, it's like, I've read about these things. These don't end well. You know what I mean? It's just shit like that, man. It's just like, you know, it's like we'd be in practice. And, like, you know, we'd be in practice and he'd have, like, a piece of glass in his sock. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? It's like, you know, just crazy shit. I found it outside. I'm like, dude, you know. It's just like, so then, you know, he, you know, we'd be out there playing and he'd look at me and pull his sock down and I'll fucking cut somebody if they found me. You know, just fun shit like that. You know what I mean? But, yeah, he was just fun to be around, man.
That's cool.
Man, you got any comments on that, buddy?
I do remember taking Blake around the lake in my mom's convertible, and I mean, very poor decision, by the way.
Yep.
But I scared the living shit out of Blake. I promise you that. The look on his face, yeah.
I love it. We'll move forward here. Moving on to some baseball stuff. Remembers Bobby talking with Corey about his bat speed all the time. Lots of focus on his power and bat speed. Corey had those professional tools. Always thought pro when I thought of Corey in baseball. From a very early age, I thought he was going to the big leagues, no doubt. And then another one, even though Corey might have bumped me for my preferred positions, it was all love because he was such a humble and good guy, and it would have felt much different if he was some arrogant jerk. So that's a cool compliment to get, man.
He made a lot of interesting comments there, and
yeah, for sure. Is this been like interesting hearing how these people think about you and like all that stuff? These are things that people don't say to each other usually, right? You know, like you're never gonna be like, "Hey, Blake, what did you think about me in high school, man?" Like, you know?
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, that's I'm getting a lot of let's just say I feel good about what I'm hearing. You know,
I love to hear that.
That's cool.
Here we go. Last one. Blake Turner. He was a selfless person.
Man, I just think that he's a selfless person, dude. He's just really down to earth. I always respected Corey because Corey was always a big deal, and everybody knew he was a big deal.
Yeah.
And he knew he was a big deal, but he never treated people like that. He never walked around like that. You know, even to this day, his kids go to Chatham. When we go there to coach, I'll find them in the stands and go up and give them a five, give them a hug, because I just really value our relationship. I don't see him too often, but whenever I see him, it's all love. And like this year, I didn't get a chance to see him at the game, but I saw his kid warming up, and I told his kid, make sure you tell your dad I said hi. You know what I mean? It's
cool.
It's just all love with us, man. That's North Side pride through and through. With us. And his kids may go to Chatham, but he's a true North Side Lanphier guy through and through.
That's the dang truth. North Side legend there, my man. Well, if you have any more thoughts on basketball, drop them. But otherwise, I think we've got kind of a good feel for how your basketball career went at Lanphier, some of the things that you got to see and experience, and we can move on to baseball if you're ready.
Sure.
You ready?
Yeah.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is like a really cool part for me. And shout out to Jim Steinwart again. He has all these stats. He has stats back to the 80s. So he's like the only one essentially that has all these. So he was able to give me these stats, and like, so I have a feel for what you were doing as a freshman. So what I have here is you were 6th in hitting, or in batting average, 382 with 6 bombs as a freshman, which is incredible. And let's open it up with a Joe Schroeder clip that kind of like sets the tone, I think, for your high school career and like kind of how people saw you here. So here we go, Joe Schro.
His first high school game, we all tried to make it there to watch him, and I think he went 5 for 7 in a doubleheader with 2 home runs as a true freshman. off,
wow.
Good high school talent. And we just said, well, all of us who were freshmen, we were like, we got a lot of work to do.
Man.
But we were so happy for him. We were always so happy for him, but that's just the way it was until we kept, developing at our speed. But he was just at another level, even as a freshman.
So you played for Coach. Pronounce his last name at Lanphier.
Tom Vos.
Tom Vos. Rest in peace. Yep,
yes.
To this guy. Tell me about like just coming into your freshman year in baseball and what you thought it was going to be and kind of what it ended up being. Like, obviously you already started in these 2 other sports and your best sport's coming up. So,
well, before we get into it, my dad Bobby, he actually, I don't know how it worked out, but he was an assistant coach on that team for 3 years.
Previous to you being there? Or when you were there?
Like the day I came, Bob came too.
Bobby came with you?
Yeah. So, he back to Tom Vos, great guy, had been there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the program had been down in recent years. But I think him bringing my dad in really helped the cause.
Oh, gosh,
You know what I mean?
Bringing in a guy with pro experience to a coaching staff is such a huge move. Always, like, man, it's just instant credibility. They know the mechanics. They know what it takes to win. Your dad's an absolute gamer, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and it probably made me more comfortable in the situation as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, was there anyone blocking your path, or was it just like, I'm the shortstop, I'm here?
I don't remember anyone else taking ground balls at shortstop.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Man, it's so long ago. I don't remember all of the players that we had. I mean, I remember Brian Graham was our third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
Great player. I really can't remember. Honestly.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
But I think in that first year we were over 500.
Yeah.
Maybe made a run at the city series, but man, baseball was very good in the city back then.
Yeah, man, it was loaded.
Yeah.
Like your time period has to have been it's just like an anomaly almost. Like there's just like so many pros and D1 guys and college guys. Like, man, an absolute period in an era in CS8 baseball. When I see those numbers, I'm like, oh, this is a conference in California, or Florida or Texas or something like that. But it's Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah.
So
I remember just one pitcher in particular, Greg Siders with Southeast, was just I had never seen a slider. Right?
Really?
And I don't know what he was throwing, velocity wise. I mean, it had to be at least mid 80s,
mm-hmm.
maybe upper 80s, but just had a nasty slider. I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
And it was an eye opener for sure.
I mean, you obviously, being confident and being fearless are people keep saying these things about you. Was there any doubt at all of like, do I belong on varsity, or you're just like, I do belong? Obviously, your stats say you do.
Yeah, it probably helped that football and basketball.
Yeah, you had already
before baseball.
Yeah,
so I was like, man, this is my favorite to play. I probably excel in this more than the others.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't I play varsity?
I love that.
I guess
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Yep.
Who knows?
Cool. I've got some P.J. Finigan quotes here, and then maybe a couple clips from old P.J. here. P.J. being, another Lanphier legend.
Yeah.
up there in your air. Like I said, Carbondale had a nice minor league career in the Tigers organization before his elbow fell off, and then now he's first year as a head skipper down at Lindenwood. Love that guy, one of my boys. All right, and you guys have like your families are connected, in ways, right?
Yeah. So his parents, Gregg and Mary, they babysat for Casey and Jamie.
That's right.
And and at times us, but my dad played with Gregg.
Steelman.
Yeah, on the Steelman, and they probably hooped together and stuff. So we were always around them when I was around.
I remember Greg saying, I think he came up with Roger maybe, or like played with Roger some, or something like that. But yeah, I love Greg as well. Anyway, all right, PJ. Here's some PJ quotes. Our families have always been connected. My mom used to babysit Casey and Jamie. My older sister went to school with Corey, so we're at a ton of those games. I remember watching him. Corey was really quiet and has an interesting personality, but it takes a little bit for him to open up, but he's really entertaining when he does. Was a focal point of all three Lanphier sports during their primes at Lanphier. Never been a better stretch. If he isn't the go to the CS8, then I don't know who is. So many accolades that followed him. I looked up to him, rooted for him. Used to always check the SJR. Where are they now? Wanting to see how Corey was doing. So do you remember? Oh, you obviously would have been playing, but when there were pro guys playing in the State Journal Register, there was always a little section that they'd be updates on your your stat line. I remember checking those too, being like, how's Corey doing? Like how's Jason Worth doing? Like how's Steve Shilsky doing? All these kind of guys. So that's cool. Absolutely looked up to him. He was a part of everything, a big part of growing up on the North End. You have to be tough to make it on the North End, and no one ever questioned Corey's toughness. Dude, I second that. I grew up primarily on the South Side, and then we kind of moved where we're at now, more on the West Side. But I had boys that, were on the North End. Like I used to hang out with like Bobby Nika, Nick Bramlett, Dave House, who's the Lanphier coach now, Ryan Ferguson, some of these guys, and it was different over there. Like when I go hang out with them, like I felt like every time I went over there, we'd get in a fight with someone, or like it was just you had to be tough over there, and like if you ran your mouth, like you better be able to put your hands up. Yeah, So
no, I would agree. That's kind of how you grow up, because your parents are gonna they're gonna look out for you, but they also they put you on a long leash, and it's like, dude, you're on your own, you know, and you develop relationships with other people that are like you, and I would totally agree, man. Coming from the North Side definitely made me tougher. Yeah, Yeah, for sure. And we'll get to it. I'm saving most of my Bobby and Sherry stuff for the end, quote wise. But your dad talked about, people don't know this about you, but like, Corey would get into some scraps sometimes, and like those would not last long, and they wouldn't be good for the other person. Like Corey would put the work in, put those bricks on you, and it'd be quick work. Yeah, I've gotten in a couple fights, but you could probably tell by how people talk about me. I don't run my mouth, so right. If I was in a fight, there was a good reason for it. I totally agree with that. I got some PJ clips we'll get through here. If you have anything to say on them, let's say it. So here we go. PJ, how strong he was.
One of the big things that always stuck out with me for him was like just how strong he was, man. He was not like the biggest guy in the world, but just for his size, and he was a really good athlete. But it was the strength that stood out. It didn't matter what you're talking about. If you're talking about on the football field, you're talking about going and watching, him being a part of those really good Lanphier basketball teams, and then obviously the most present thing was watching him hit a baseball. It was just different, man. Like you hear that come up, but I just thought that translated for as small in stature of a person he is, how strong he was. And that always stuck out to me, because he never seemed out of place in any of those sports, even though he's not the tallest guy in the world.
That's cool. And let me ask you this. You were obviously born a strong guy. Like, you got some genetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did like weightlifting become a thing for you, or how much did it become a thing for you?
I was one of those guys in high school that would kind of hide in the weight room during football, those sessions. I just didn't like it. I actually used to run a lot.
Really?
Yeah, kind of run distance, run a couple miles. I guess I kind of fought weight when I was younger, and I really didn't. I was maybe a little pudgy here and there at times, but I was always concerned with it. It was
not like Casey though, right?
Yeah, similar.
We were cracking on Casey for being pudgy.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, but yeah, I really didn't care about weights.
Really?
Until probably my second year in pro ball.
Really?
I more or less did it to kind of transform my body.
Yeah.
I wanted to look better. I didn't necessarily need to, my whole life I've never lifted my legs type deal. Never, just never liked it, and my knees hurt when I do squats and stuff. So, never did, man.
But still, big, strong legs though. Like there's videos of you, that I'm watching, like when you're in pro ball, and like sure looks like you squat,
right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean. I just got lucky.
It's nice to be blessed.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously have you come to have some sort of an appreciation for the iron, for working out and stuff like that now as an adult? And
oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember seeing you all the time at Fit Club back in the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's I mean, you know as well as I do, it's addicting, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take long if you start to see your body transform.
Especially someone with like you that has genetics for that.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you put on muscle like that.
Yeah.
Look at a weight.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been lucky in that aspect.
For sure. All right. Here we go. PJ again. Hold your breath. 14-year-old Corey.
I you know how I am. I've always got story upon story. I remember him being 14 years old at Lanford Park, and I don't even remember what team he was playing for, but it was the state tournament, and he was hitting balls out right and left, and it was like every time he came up, everyone was holding their breath because you're like, he's gonna do it again, and it was just like how cool that was to follow along and kind of see, knowing what I knew about him, but just to see him kind of take center stage in something like that, and just that's always been apparent with him is the raw power.
Love that. And then final one would be watching him at Fairview and a Coach Taylor.
Going and watching him at Fairview Park, and his team didn't end up winning, but I remember that the Paducah Storm picked him up, and I'm like, how cool is that? Like, how good are you that you put on an absolute show? You pretty much willed your team into this, however far they ended up getting. But I just remember like literally like trying to know where I was at in the park at all times whenever he came up to the plate during that tournament, and I probably would have been 8-9 years old at that time, but it made such an impression that I remember that. I still to this day remember that. And really the other, I think probably funny story that I have about Corey is I happened to be my 7th grade science teacher is Mr. Taylor, and he was an assistant coach at Southeast at the time. Big baseball guy. We always talked baseball all the time, and City Series was going on there playing Lanfair. And I remember talking to him about it, and Corey, and talking about all the other guys on the team, and Mr. Taylor saying, Corey Erickson will not beat us. And I was like looking at him, and I didn't quite wrap my head around it. But as the conversation got going a little bit more, I went back to it, and I said, why do you say he won't beat us? And he just said, we're not going to throw him a strike. It's not worth it. And he was so adamant, and he was like, he was getting worked up, like, talking to me about it. And I remember walking away from that conversation like, man, how good is Corey? Like, the guy just said they're not going to throw him a strike. Like, come on. Like that, like, and what are you, 12 years old? I'm 12, maybe 13 years old at that time. And I'm like, man, Corey's so good that the other team's not going to throw him a strike. They're going to literally put him on base because they don't want to pitch to him. And I believe that he hit a home run during the course of those 2 games against Southeast. And just how adamant my teacher was, I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to piss him off because I knew that like it really meant something to him. So
yeah,
getting the Barry Bonds treatment in high school has got to be interesting. And Bobby multiple times talked about how much you got walked in high school. Like people just stopped pitching to you. And I'm looking at some of these at bats, and it's like your at bats dwindle as you go further into your high school career.
Right.
Like they pitched to you, and they were like, "Well, this is dumb. So why am I pitching?" Like you had 12 home runs your senior year and 92 at bats, and like 85 at bats your junior year. So you were getting walked a lot. Frustrating, or what was that?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
I mean, there's a few times I remember getting intentionally walked. I mean, some of those are my own fault because I got a good pitch to hit. I just hit it foul. You know
That's
what
right.
I mean?
Yeah.
And then work my way, to a walk. But yeah, it kind of got that way, man. Like as the years went by in high school, I just didn't get as many opportunities, to hit. But
it seems like you made the most of it when they did put it over the plate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably one of those, we're not going to intentionally walk him, but we're going to intentionally walk him.
Yeah,
type
right.
deal,
Just
depending
we're gonna
on the
nibble
situation. Yeah.
a foot off the plate, half a foot off the plate, and hope he chases and dribbles into
Right,
something, or
right.
for sure.
Yeah, and I didn't, I didn't look for pitches away.
Right.
In high school, I didn't know what I was doing really. You just
approach wise.
Yeah, I didn't have an approach.
Right.
I just knew I was looking for something middle in.
I'm gonna hammer it.
Yeah, and just try and hit as far as I can. But so
I love that.
I probably took balls that were on the outside part of the plate that were probably strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look like strikes to me because I wasn't even thinking about trying to hit them.
Interesting.
So
would you say you were going up there like, I want to hit a home run, or I'm thinking home run?
Probably.
Awesome.
Probably like
that's awesome.
It'd be nice here type deal,
What is there's like a favorite, or it's like a famous Mickey Mantle quote. It's like someone, like, you're not supposed to say you're doing that, right? But like, I think some reporter was like, "Hey Mickey, you're like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to hit a home run every time? Or are you trying to hit a home run when you go up there?" And he was like, "Sure, every time."
Yeah.
So that's the Corey Erickson motto too.
I mean, yeah, it's the most fun thing to do in sports,
That's
man.
the damn
So
truth, man. There's nothing like tanking one, is there?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I didn't do it like you did it, but I can remember what it feels like. It's just a special thing.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a couple pages here of Joe Schroeder quotes. So this is one of your old friends here, and he's got a lot of awesome things to say about you. It was really cool getting to talk to like some of your good friends that have like insight on you and like really know kind of who you are and like what you've been through and seen and whatnot. So I'm going to rip through some of these, and like, again, just stop me if you got anything to say. So, at an early age, he was physically and mentally able to keep up with anyone. Fearless, adapted well, and was just never afraid of the situation or level of competition he was up against. Corey could just play. We grew up playing football together, starting in flag football at the boys club, then the JFL Cowboys, all the way through senior year, always our quarterback. Truly developed into a lights-out safety. I believe he could have played at the D1 level had he focused on that. He was smart, could cover, and never missed a tackle. He would stick his nose into anything, never afraid. Our class was a little lean in basketball, but the 96 class in basketball was so full of talent. Corey found his spot with that group. Was just a lockdown defender. Favorite memory was beating Peoria Manual. Remember us rushing the floor. You guys were the Mid-State 9 before going to the CS8. I remember him locking up Jerry Hester. Fearless, had amazing hands, and keep you frustrated. Never had one at bat away from varsity, which is pretty cool. His ability to hit a fastball was next level. Didn't matter how hard you threw. The faster you threw, the farther you hit it. A fastball didn't exist that Corey couldn't get to, or that could get by Corey. He had that different sound. When he connected with the baseball, it was gone. His defense was so consistent. He made all the plays look easy. The way he turned a double play was so incredible. I'm glad we're getting to the defensive stuff because there's a ton of, really positive things that people have said about your defense. And everyone wants to, when they think Corey, they're like, bombs, when you think Corey Erickson, bombs, tanks, whatever you want to call them, jimmies. But there's so much defense there, too. That was really cool. We'll get to it. And I know you were curious about what DJ Mark DeJean said about you. I'll skip ahead just a little bit, but he said you had the most accurate arm he's ever seen on the infield. Wouldn't that such a compliment? Like for a guy that's been in baseball for 50 years and like seen
that's
anyone. I mean, like the names that have played for him. He played in the big leagues. Like, just we'll get there. But I wanted to give you that right now.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
very cool. His defense was so consistent. He made all the plays. The way he turned double play was so incredible. He was wowing college and pro guys when he was in high school with his shortstop skills. Didn't even realize how special it was until later in life. He was always getting work with Bobby. His dad did a ton with him. Student of the game, did a great job balancing all the sports and academics. Half the crowd at our games his senior year were scouts. Didn't faze him at all. He was raised to do this. Special moment watching him sign in front of his family. I went to watch him in Pittsfield a few times in Double-A. I remember him batting third in a lineup with a ton of former big leaguers. Of course, we're talking about that Double-A Akron team that some call the greatest Double-A team of all time. We'll get there, but that roster is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is kind of.
The names that you've played with is ridiculous in your career, man. It's just like I looked at every roster that you've been on. I was just like, oh my gosh, him, this guy, this guy, this guy. I'm like, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on some of these guys. Yeah. We never got to hang out with Corey during the summer because he was always gone playing with like USA and like teams like that. We'll get to that next. Pumped. Really supported me during my knee surgery and recovery. Said you were awesome being there for him for that. Got beat by a really good team at Chatham our senior year. I believe that's baseball. He's a reliable guy. Will always answer the phone. Fun to watch him thrive as a dad. Has given so much back to the game. So that concludes those for us here. And then here we go, man. Pan Am time. Yeah. So.
No, cool. Before we get any further, man,
please.
I can't thank all the people who took your calls and are speaking on my behalf. I just don't, I feel bad for anyone who thinks they might have something to say and are not going to get a chance, or and I want to thank everybody for what they have said, what I've heard. It's just great, man. It makes me
it's got to be a surreal really experience to hear this kind of stuff.
It does, and they're all just cool people. They're all great people. And
well said. I'm glad you're giving gratitude, and let me say that I'm sorry if I didn't get to you and you felt like you should have been in this. There's only so much time,
Yeah,
and like
there's so much time, and you didn't know me.
No.
Like, you learned more about me from all these people.
Yeah.
So you would had no idea
No.
who to talk to. I mean,
not have context.
Yeah.
So I was doing my best.
Yeah. I mean, I gave you a few names, but
Right.
at the same time, I didn't want, if you
didn't want to dictate this.
Yeah. I didn't want to dictate it, and I didn't want to leave anybody out.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't on me, not to put you in a bad spot, but
not at all.
You know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
I mean, it feels really good, to hear these people talk about me, and it's cool, man.
It's a journey worth remembering.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I appreciate you giving gratitude. And let me say one thing before we move forward too. I haven't featured a lot of like moms and women in these, and it has nothing to do with any issues I have with women. I typically focus on the father-son relationship because, dad's usually, the one teaching you, throwing catch, playing catch with you, teaching you how to hit. It became apparent to me that, your mom had such a huge impact on you, so I had to include her. So let me just say that I'm sorry to any mother if I haven't included you and you felt like you wanted to be a part of this, the former guest. I apologize, and I've got some plans for like a future Mother's Day segment where I go back and talk to the moms and get some thoughts from some of these guys. So anyway, Pan Am team, man, this has to have been. So when I'm talking, Corey eventually got picked up by the Team USA, Pan Am. This is a huge deal, man. Like, this is like, man, you're going somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You get picked for something like that. Like, you're being recognized as one of the best players in the country. I'd love to hear how this experience went for you, how they got a hold of you. Like, I'd love to hear. Yeah, just tell me about it.
Yeah, so going back to the World Series thing,
Mm-hmm.
that was probably missing that, not getting that bunt down. Probably got me an opportunity to go play for the Pan American team, right? But
it's funny.
But yeah, it was cool. I don't even remember how it happened. You sent me that video the other day, and it brought back some of the memories. But I don't know how I was approached. I do remember that it cost like $2,000, and there were so many people that threw in $25, $50 to make it happen. I don't think my mom or dad put anything out of pocket. It was all their friends and my friends' parents.
People that believed in you.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
That in itself is really cool.
That's touching.
But it gave me an opportunity to meet with, or to play with like real deal ball players around the United States.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty cool. We just I think we worked out in Kansas somewhere at a junior college or something for a week, and then they put us all on a plane and flew us to Mexico. And I'll never forget that we get off the plane and they take us on a bus, and we're driving, looks like the middle of nowhere, and we end up I think in a place called Cordova, maybe.
Yeah.
And they have this big celebration for all the different teams and countries that are there, and we had hot dogs and macaroni and cheese, which was fine, Yeah. But yeah, it was the first time I was really ever away from home without my family.
Your mom actually said, like, I can't believe I sent my son to Mexico with people I don't even know.
Yeah.
She was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, right. No doubt. I mean, obviously a different time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. It was weird. It was kind of weird baseball because I mean we played some games like we would drive like an hour and a half to a field that was a piece of shit. I mean just dog crap, and I don't know how we ended up there. I don't know why we didn't just play most of our games in the same stadium.
Right.
But I mean, regardless, doesn't matter. But there was all the countries were there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we beat Venezuela and Costa Rica.
Wow. What other countries do you remember that were there?
Brazil was there. I remember Brazil because I was 14, so it would have been 91, I think. But Brazil had a potential first-round pick. We faced him. He was
really
big, blonde-haired dude. He was probably 6'7". Throwing 92, 93.
Shoo.
And he was supposed to be a first-round pick, but everyone was saying that he's supposed to get $700,000. It was like this major, signing bonus.
And like early 90s, that is a lot.
Yeah.
Man. What's it like putting on a USA jersey?
It's cool, man. I still have it.
Really?
Yeah, from both years.
Sense of pride, like, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You represent your country, like, man.
And then I can't remember which year we won it. I think we won it. In Mexico, and then maybe got the silver in the next year in Chicago. But just like the Olympics, they play your national anthem, and they come up and put the medallion or whatever, the medal around your neck. It's
you get goosebumps or stuff like that, or like chills, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but at the time, probably,
Yeah. What was the competition like?
Oh, it was pretty good. I mean, it's kind of 50-50, Who knows if some of the smaller country teams sent their best, or if they didn't have the if they didn't have the money to facilitate putting together a good squad.
Right. Yeah.
I mean the most of the pitching was about the same. Everyone was around, I would say 85.
Yeah.
Which was as hard or harder than I was seeing in high school.
Sure.
Yeah. I feel like we had a couple stud pitchers.
Yeah.
That were probably pushing 90, but yeah, I mean it was real baseball.
Yeah.
But we're all kids,
Right.
We're 13, 14 years old, so how real a baseball could it have been.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
we weren't we weren't in our adult bodies yet, really.
Well, I put out a clip the other day of a couple swings from that time, right? And you say you're kids, but I mean, you look like a grown man, and like that's a grown man swing. That's not a 14-year-old child swing. Like that's big league bat speed. I mean, you were whipping that bat.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We like I said, we did have a squad though. I
Yeah.
mean, we won it all that year. So.
And your mom came to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had some funny stories about that.
Yeah,
she said like there was some at some of the fields, like you said, they were kind of pieces of shit, and there'd be like you'd like. If you got to go to the bathroom, it's like a bucket over a horse stall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, there was one game we played with potato sacks, like literal potato sacks for bases.
At the Pan Am games?
At the Pan Am games. So you get there and it's fun and people are excited and you play a couple games in like a real stadium and it's like, man, this is the best place I've ever played. And then the next day you drive 2 hours to basically play in someone's, field.
She told me another story about like, because you didn't have a cell phone this time. This is like early 90s, right? And someone, she came down, she was going to meet you at some hotel, and I guess you guys had already gone or moved hotels, and all you left was like a note like, Mom, I'm somewhere else, or like, I'm here. And she's like, oh my God, like, where's my baby? And you can't, there's no cell phones, so it's just a different time.
Yeah. No, exactly. They moved us. This was in the time of calling cards.
Oh man!
Remember, you probably don't even know about calling cards. Well, I'm sure you've heard of them, but that's what we used. Instead of setting up some type of account, you'd buy a calling card.
Yeah.
And you would just eat up minutes.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I really don't remember. I mean, I'm sure I called my mom and my dad every night and told them how I did or whatever, until my mom showed up. But yeah, there would be a shock if you come to watch your fly down to Mexico to watch your son play and he's not even at the hotel you thought he was. Like that'd be scary.
Yes, it would be. Yes, it would. I mean, it's so cool that you got to strap them up, with the Stars and Stripes, USA. Like, not many people get that experience or get to be recognized like that or go do something like that. You've got to see and do a lot of cool stuff because of the game of baseball. It's just
that's the best part, man.
Yeah,
that's the best part. You know as well as I do. Like some of the stuff you miss when you're done playing. Is just hanging out with the boys on bus trips. That's
or damn truth.
In the locker room or at the apartment complex. You know, everyone's sleeping on blow up mattresses and it's just it's cool. But you're right. Maybe at the time I didn't realize what it meant.
Yeah.
Like you said, to play for a USA team.
Oh my gosh.
I definitely have a better understanding for it now.
Yeah, I remember people talking about it, like, "Oh, Corey, Corey's USA, Team USA, Team USA." All right, we can move on to sophomore year then. So, you were fourth in hitting in the CS8. You hit .422 with 8 dings. I've got some Eric Lewey quotes. I've got some Gregg Finigan quotes. Almost every person we talked to, or I talked to, that played with you, mentioned this brawl story, and you know what I'm talking about? Someone knocked over Bobby.
Oh yeah.
What year would that have been?
I think that was like if you talk to Springer again, like he tells the story great.
Yeah.
Because he basically facilitated the whole deal, because he was making fun of him.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is Arizona in the World Series. The Connie Mack World Series, I think, or Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
I think it was between our sophomore and junior year, I believe. But yeah, so it was. I think it was in Scottsdale. Did anybody tell you?
That sounds right.
Yeah. So anywhere, somewhere in Arizona, and it was an actual minor league park, but the home team's dugout was blocked off, so you split. They just had a curtain separating the two teams. So you're in there getting dressed and shit. And we were just a collection of dudes, you know, just thrown together. All these kids are probably playing together for the organization their whole lives and all this, you know. And we had the 2-button T-shirts.
Yeah.
That was our jerseys. And
that, like the Henleys?
Pretty much, but not even that cool, dude. And all white pants, no pinstripe, no nothing, you know. And Springer starts getting into it. They're making fun of our uniforms, and I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but I thought a fight was going to break out before the game.
Yeah.
And then it just got out of control at the very end. I came in a pitch, and we're up by a run or two, I think. And whatever, bottom or top of the 7th, 1 out, bases loaded, and a guy hits a dribbler back to me. I throw home, and Joel Fulgenzi steps on home plate and fakes to first.
Yep.
And the guy rounds third hard, so we got him in a pickle. And at the very end, the guy tried to run him over at home plate. And, you know, he fought it off and stood up and slammed the ball on home plate. And so he pushed Joel. You know, everyone starts running in. My dad is like one of the first ones shooting out of the dugout, and somebody from their dugout knocked him clean off his feet, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got the video of it because I've seen
someone
it.
out there has it.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, it was pretty awesome.
And Springer did tell me the story. I didn't make that a clip. I do have a clip of someone else talking about that, but Springer said trying to hold you back after that was like an experience. He said it was a level of strength that he's never.
Yeah.
He said like 4 or 5 guys couldn't hold you back. Like you were just.
Yeah,
like,
I was trying to
irate.
get to that dude who blew up my dad.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And Foos jumps up, and he slams the ball down on the plate. You know, he's happy. Boom. Okay, both benches empty.
Really?
So I go running to the plate because I'm trying to keep Fusion. He gets kicked out. He don't get to play tomorrow, the next day. You know, so I'm running to the plate, and somebody hits me.
Oh.
I mean, dead on in the chest, and knocks me sideways off my feet, and just cold cocked me.
Corey lost it, didn't he?
And see, I don't know I didn't see anything except somebody has that on tape.
Really?
And those other guys have all seen it. I ain't never got to see it. I don't remember who taped it. Anyway, I get knocked down and spun around. People are all standing over me. I get up to try to make sure I'm trying to keep Fuji in the game, keep him from getting kicked out the next day. Now there's officials from the World Series committee and the umpires, and I get up and there's a kid down on the field, and they separate them. And the bad part was because they got all these games, and they didn't want to use we were playing in the AAA park in Phoenix. And I think they used the field for spring training. It was Major League Park. It was great. The locker rooms, you didn't get a locker room by yourself. They had a big cloth up, a blanket up, and you were in the same locker room on different sides. Okay, we were in a locker room with those idiots.
Yeah.
So we had, but anyway, I didn't know till later was that guy hits me, Corey drops him.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, 10 different stories of how he hit him, how he got him, but I never saw some of the guys got to see the replay but I don't remember who had the tape. Food said he's seen it one time, I think, but some parent filmed it. Yeah, and somehow nobody got kicked out, so we got to play.
Don't mess with Bobby.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, don't mess with with Corey's dad here. All right, Eric Lewey. You know, went to Lincoln Land, Kentucky Wesleyan. He was teammates with Springer there. Played some rifles. All right, I first remember meeting Corey, getting picked up by Dairy Queen. Corey was super welcoming when I transferred over to Landfear. We still stay in contact. We played for the Steelmen together. Everyone knew who Corey was growing up. He liked going and doing all the Pan Am team stuff, but from what he told me, what I think I remember, he really enjoyed coming home and playing with his boys, and like maybe had more fun playing for the Steelmen. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the USA team was an experience, that I'll never forget. But he's probably right, man. That's that's what summer ball is for, man. Is play with your boys. And yeah.
I love that. He never acted like he was better than anyone or even a big deal. Just wanted to be one of the boys and have fun. And I want to comment on that. So I remember, like seeing you when I was a kid and stuff, and like I would be like observing a little bit, and like you didn't say a whole lot, and I'd be like, in my head I was like, man, I don't want to be negative, but I was like, Corey is just like, he's a pro baseball player. Like he didn't have to talk to anyone. Like he's big leaguing everyone. But it's like that's not what you were doing. You're just a really humble guy, and like you're more on the quiet side. And I think it's probably easy for people to read you wrongly in that way. Do you ever feel like you've been misrepresented like that?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that probably when we start talking pro ball.
Okay.
But yeah, that kind of thing is on my mind, from time to time, and I really didn't realize that that's the way it was. That I thought by being nice and not saying anything, people would assume you're a good person.
Yeah.
But that's now that I'm older and I understand. Like I probably was perceived as a dick, by some people because
just being kind of quiet.
Yeah, because I was quiet. I
and really talented. So like they put those together and they're like, oh, this guy's full of himself.
Yeah. So
furthest thing from the truth.
I think maybe I would say the majority of the people that actually know me know that's not true, but
nobody would say that about you.
I don't know anybody.
Zero.
Or everybody,
Yeah,
so
that's cool. And then like he started talking about some of the roster on the Steelmen, and man, there's some names on here, dude. Mike Pilger, Todd McClure, Fulgenzi, Joe Schroeder, Chad Carter, Pat Trees, Chris Skeeters, Steve Petrelli, Steve Lister, Mike Bartletti, who is actually Mike Bartletti is a chief for the Springfield Fire Department. He lives down the street.
Does he?
Yeah, Chief Bart.
He's awesome, man.
Yeah, great
Bart's
guy.
Cool as shit.
Everyone talks about how fast he was.
Yeah, he's fast as shit.
Said
too.
that one of the fastest guys they've ever played with. Everyone says that.
Yeah.
We used to laugh because we would go to these big tournaments and put it on teams that were full of D1 guys, and half of us were, going to play at Lincoln Land. Went to the World Series in Arizona, Mickey Mantle. I think he is the CS8 GOAT when you factor in how he turned around every program, started 4 years in each, and played the premium positions. Absolutely, it's him. Got tons of letters coming up in baseball. I think I remember, here it is, Tennessee wanting him to come play both, and I think he was just confused. UK, right?
Yeah,
yep.
Probably.
Cool.
I mean, if anybody saw letters and stuff like that around my house, I mean, probably Joe Schroeder too. But me and Eric, we hung out a lot, and he was at my house a lot.
Yeah.
So, he was like almost like a second kid to my mom.
That's cool. Got a clip here. Corey excited.
So when I my senior year kicking for a field goal, as first game of the year is to beat Manuel, and he was my holder, and I was fucking scared to death, dude. And I'm 27, 30-yard field goal from a hash, and he's like, "You ready for this, man? Are you ready?" I'm like, "It's most I've seen him get pumped." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, just leave me alone." I'm like, "Get out of my face." He's like, "But you're the, I'm usually the guy like, let's go, Corey, like bumping him. He's getting in my face. I'm like, "Shut up, dude, I can't do this, And then I make it, and he's jumping up and down and, going crazy. You just don't see a lot of that. So it was cool, man. That's one of the stories I remember a lot. It wasn't even baseball, so.
Okay, moving on. Unless you got anything?
No, I do remember that, though. I mean, I think he missed an extra point or something early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Or there was some reason why he wasn't. I mean, it was his first real game ever kicking.
Yeah.
Because traditionally at Lanphier we didn't have great kickers.
Right.
In any of the other years, and we talked him into coming out and
doing it,
kicking a few, and he ended up liking it. I'm sure he'll tell you he had a blast.
Yeah.
Love
that. Let's see. He told me the story of Corey losing it over Bobby getting pushed. He said you used to kill people over the middle, just annihilate them. Remembers a clutch 3 you hit against Peoria Manual. Nobody liked Corey. Light tower power was unreal. I saw many balls hit over the lights at Lanphier. Swears you hit 6 balls foul at Lincoln before hitting one out. The faster you threw, the faster he swung. Quickest hands I've ever seen. Can't remember him ever throwing the ball away. Always hit the first baseman in the chest. Talk about 5 tools. Corey had them all. Corey was naturally talented, but certainly worked his butt off. Remember Bobby coming during lunchtime at Lanphier and going to hit BP quite a bit, stuff like that. And we already kind of touched on some things like that. Getting it in when you can. Yeah, that's cool. Remember Roger throwing hard BP to you guys and absolutely bringing it, and we would all be scared shitless, and Corey would be, raking, hitting jacks. That's cool, and that kind of ties into my memory of seeing. Yeah, I can close my eyes right now and picture it. I see it. It was at the fairgrounds. It was the cage where Roger would do hitting lessons, or pitching lessons. So not the one with any of like the iron mics in it, but the furthest one. Yeah. To the right, I can picture it, man. Yeah.
And his arm was still in good shape back then, dude.
Oh yeah, Raj. Man, I got so many funny memories of Raj and like his cable public access. Remember that thing that was on TV and like the commercials? It just, man, Raj, love it. Remembers breaking into Lanphier in high school, the baseball field, and Corey climbing the light tower. Then a day later, he's hitting homers over said light tower. Man, can you tell me the light story, the light tower story?
Light tower? I think thunderstorm. I mean, it really there wasn't much to it. It was a thunderstorm, and we had just come from a party and looking for something to do, driving by the park, and I don't know why we decided to break into Lanphier Park. I mean, you can't do anything.
Right. What is there fun to do? Yeah.
But yeah, for some reason, I probably got dared, or I told someone I was going to do it, and they're like, "Why would you do that?" Or, if I said something like that and somebody looked like there was fear, like, dude, don't do that.
Oh, it's on.
It's on. And,
Springer
just showing off, man.
Yeah, Springer tells it too, and Springer's like, I mean, it was like he was Tarzan. Like, he just all of a sudden he said he was going to do it, and then he's like halfway up the staying pole, like he's just shimmying up, and like there's no handles, and like we don't know how he did it, and it's cool to hear how guys talk about it with such reverence and admiration. Like I hope you're not taking this or people listening as like I'm trying to paint Corey as some lunatic. He's just a guy that had this side of him that liked to live on the edge in some ways, and like I totally get that.
Totally agree with that.
The young guys, I believe like there's parts of our brain that don't really fully form until we're 25, and we make some interesting choices, and it's kind of falls in line there.
Sure.
Let's see. Never seemed to be affected by the scouts there. Completely unfazed. Wouldn't even mention them. There was no fastball Corey couldn't turn on, and then finally Eric Lewey. Corey, my protector.
So, yeah, he got me to kick, and just seeing the difference, how quiet he is, but you always knew him getting pumped up, right? And one time I was punting, I was in the back of the end zone, and he was my protector, and some dude laid me out late. And I remember I had to be concussed or whatever, and looking up, and he's in this guy's face, grabbing his face mask, getting fired up, because you never really seen that much out of him, Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Love to hear stuff like that. And it sounds like that's kind of a theme. Like you were going to stand up for people and not afraid.
Yeah, I would let people beat on me and get away with it.
But not your friends.
But
or people you loved.
Yeah, like friends, family.
Yeah.
I can't take that.
Corey, don't play that. Corey, don't play it. All right, moving on. I've got some Gregg Finigan stuff here. So we're still on your sophomore year, but I'll just kind of move on to some quotes here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll riff off that. Bob and I played a lot of ball together. He's the same age as Corey is the same age as my daughter, Jennifer. Ball jumped off his bat, had a cannon arm, 5-tool, had good hands, made plays other kids couldn't make. Everything he hit, even as a young kid, was always on the nose. The ball jumped, and he was hitting for power at a very early age. Was the best player in the city for a long time. was a big deal to get picked up by the Paducah Storm. They were kind of looked at, them and the Indiana Bulls were kind of thought of as the premier traveling teams during that era.
Sure.
That era. Could run like the wind, one of the best defensive players in CS8 history for basketball. I remember how strong he was. Could knock, the biggest guy off the block in basketball. My God, his wrists and forearms were just so strong. You don't see people like that. I always thought it was, if anyone was going to make it, he would have. He had the pedigree, the background, the talent. Mary Finigan actually chimed in when I was talking to Gregg, and there's some story. She loves it. She was laughing about it. Of like, I guess you guys used to kind of like play pranks on each other, the families back and forth. And there was one story about you stealing like some Easter bunny off their porch, and she just remembers like seeing. She was looking out the window, and all of a sudden, the ears of the Easter bunny were like moving, and then like she sees the Easter bunny like running down the street, and you took it. And do you remember anything like that?
I kind of do. I kind of do feel like we messed with them a little bit.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, because they were in our. Yeah. Their house was about halfway between my dad's house and my mom's house. So in that neighborhood, we used to mess with a lot of people's houses.
Like rearrange like Christmas ornaments and like stuff like that.
Harmless shit.
Right, like funny stuff. Like I totally get that. They were pranksters. The Steelmen were like the real first kind of travel team from the area here. Here we go. Gregg Finigan. Let's go BP clip.
Obviously, you're trying to throw him a lot of off-speed pitches and stuff like that. But what people don't know is Corey used to take BP all the time, and that was when Roger was here. Mm-hmm. Obviously he's done playing, but he was running like Erickson Sporting Goods and then the Cages down here. Yeah. But I saw him in there throwing to Corey, in high school and, when he was in the pros and everything else. And he's throwing legit sliders and shit at him in a cage, and he's just hammering them. I mean, he did not get fooled much by with off-speed pitches like most kids did. And I think that's why, because Bobby and Roger were always hitting him with that, because I mean, obviously as soon as people figured it out, he was not going to see a whole lot of fastballs.
Right. Yeah.
Because you had to chase those when you did that. So
can you speak on that, like the importance of, like, I don't know what kind of BP Bobby threw to you, but Roger throwing you stiff BP with stuff like that, like how was that helpful for you?
Yeah, I mean it was mostly in the off seasons,
right?
Just trying to get me ready to see that speed again.
Was that more in pro ball?
Yeah, it was more in pro ball.
Okay.
I mean, he may have mixed it up when I was younger,
right?
Just to mess with us, but because the off speed that he had, I wasn't going to see that in high school.
No.
So there wouldn't have been much point in him doing that for a purpose, other than just messing with us.
Yeah.
Here, hit this one.
Right.
So yeah, that was more. I would say that was more pro ball time.
Okay. Gotcha. And we talked about this. Had a ton of walks his senior year. Like, everyone just walked him all the time. So it's amazing that he had the stats that he did. He could change the game even if they weren't pitching to him. He got another one here. Gregg Finigan. Corey was the total package.
Lanford Park's got the old time park thing, and the ball still sounds great coming. Even off the bats there, you still get the echo and everything. And hell, he was lighting up balls, and that was when the big, the scoreboard was in left center field, and he's hitting line drives off the scoreboard. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But that was definitely where his power was, and and then by that time, you're hearing that he could be a top 2 or 3 round draft pick.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Oh wow!
Pretty impressive for a position player.
Yeah.
At the high school level. I mean, unless you're just a 5-tool phenom, you don't hear a whole lot of people like that are up that high. A lot of pitchers maybe, but anyway, he was good defensively. He had a really good arm, and You know, he was very accurate with the throws, and you know, was good around, had great footwork around second base. So, you know, I remember it looked pretty, you know, he was really smooth turning double plays and stuff. So, I mean, he had the whole package, that's for sure.
Yeah. Whole package. When did pro start coming around? When did that become like a real thing that was, you know?
I don't know. I mean, I guess pros, they can approach you anytime. Like, there's rules.
I mean, do you remember scouts being there when you were like a sophomore? Or did they come a little later?
No. Yeah, it may have just been senior year.
Really?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I remember my freshman year, we played Chatham, and there was a bunch of scouts there to see Brian McClure.
Yeah, those McClure boys could play.
Yeah, and I made a few errors at short, and Bobby got a little upset with me. Yeah, but maybe junior year.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Maybe a couple junior year, just to see what's up.
Yeah.
But I do think there was probably 10 a game or something like that my senior year.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Now, making a couple errors in a game like that, you know, there's a lot of scouts like there. Would that have been something that you dwelled on, or were you able to, you know, drop that and move forward? Was that?
I beat myself up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, errors, strikeouts. I mean, I'm sure I forgot about it after the game.
Yeah.
I think my dad, he saw that I may have potential to make a run at getting drafted, and that would have been a good time to play good and get on the radar. And, you know.
That's the truth.
Whoops.
Okay. Would rank him up there with Jason Worth as the greatest I've seen do it in the CS8 position player wise. They're the two that come to mind. Not many hit double-digit home runs in high school, getting walked that much. As a kid, he was always dragging around that wiffle ball bat, you know, and ball and begging people to play with him. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
You could tell he really loved it. A very hard worker, not the rah-rah type. He's the guy that leads by example. He always worked harder than anyone else, so you better follow or you're getting left behind. And then this is an interesting clip. It was kind of about your like pro stuff. Here we go. It's called "They Want."
Sometimes you don't know what they're really wanting. They just,
absolutely.
They want.
Yeah.
You know, they want something. They want you to be better. They want you to lead their team and all this, but they don't really know how to get you there.
Yeah.
And I think he's a really good example of that, where, you know, they moved him around. You know, they took him away from being a pull hitter, you know, with power, to being a gap hitter and drive the ball, and, you know, might have taken away a little of his aggressiveness.
Yeah, well said.
And, you know, it took away a little, you know, his advantage was those forearms and those wrists. And
well said.
If you're waiting for the ball, if you're waiting longer to get to the ball, you're not snapping them forearms and wrists like you were, you know, when you're hitting the ball in front of you, you know,
well
so
said.
it's different.
You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like you and I talked off the radio before about, you know, having certain coaches that just they don't ever leave you alone, you know, and you know you're hired to do a job,
right? So
you can't say no, I ain't doing it,
right?
So you got to try it, and you know, and then you might develop a bad habit just trying it. You know, I mean,
dude, I get that
baseball
deeply.
Is so, I mean, you're one bad swing away from a slump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in the end though, it's my career. You know,
Sure.
It was your career.
Yeah.
You know, you got to figure out a way to make it work.
I know.
And, you know, unfortunately, it didn't.
It's so crazy, right? Because it's like the game of baseball is like some guys, you know, will give a coach lip service and be like, yeah, I'll work on this, but then just go right back to their swing, you know, and that's their ticket. That works for them. And then some guys need to be coached and they need a mechanical change, and that's their rocket. You know, that's Jose Bautista made a big swing change when he was kind of scuffling, and he went from being a utility guy, like a 4A guy, to Jose Bautista, and it's like, so what do you do? Which one do you do? And then you can lose your swing, you start trying new shit, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then before you know it, it's like, wait, what is my swing? Like, what happened to my authentic swing? Like that, like I've seen videos, it's a pretty big difference from your pro swing to that swing that I've seen when you were like 14 for Team USA,
Yeah.
It's different. It looks like you're trying some things and working on deeper contact and a lot of stuff, Do you agree on some level?
Dude, from the day that I took my first BP as a pro in front of, the New York Mets, it was their mission to make me use the whole field.
Yeah.
Which, if looking back on it now, if I would have just dedicated myself to making that commitment from day one, things might have been different, But, you go for a couple of years and, some things work for you, some things don't. And then all of a sudden you're like, now I have to perform or I'm gone.
Yeah.
So
that's heavy.
You don't have, you don't have 2 months to try something out.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You may not have 2 weeks.
and making big mechanical changes in season can be so hard too,
Yeah.
right? It's like you have muscle memory and these movements are so ingrained in you, and it's like, okay, now do something totally different, and it's like you're like fighting movements and you don't feel as athletic, and it's like kind of stiff, and it's like,
yeah,
what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I was saying though, ultimately it's my career.
Yeah.
And
but you don't want to be uncoachable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah.
Because those guys,
tough,
doesn't fare well for them either.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's a double-edged sword.
It is. And my first guest, Ryan Aper, had that exact thing happen to him. He was the 6th round pick, big deal, and he got in and they changed his swing and he never found it again, and he had these battles of like trying to appease his coaches and do what they said, and he had 20 different coaches telling him 20 different things, and before he knew it, it was like, I don't even know what my swing is.
Yeah.
And like it was lost.
Yeah.
And
no, his podcast was very interesting.
He did a great job.
Yeah, he did.
He really set the tone for this whole thing.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Moving on here. Does anything, before we get to your second year of Pan Am, does anything stand out? I didn't ask you this about your freshman year, but does anything stand out that was important for you in your freshman and sophomore years in baseball that you feel like we didn't address or talk about or anything like that?
Not really, man. Like what?
I don't know. I don't know. Just like a story or an experience that you felt like is worth mentioning from either of those years. Okay.
Not necessarily, man.
Right.
I tell you what was so much fun, and it's too bad that it's not relevant anymore. But City Series was awesome.
Yeah.
And
it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
something to that. They don't even do that anymore? Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
You just got rid of it?
Yeah, it's gone.
That's interesting.
I'm not sure why, but yeah, it was it was like that and the city tournament in basketball.
Yeah, big deal.
That's there's
special.
nothing like that. Dude.
That was an awesome atmosphere. For those of you that don't know or aren't from Springfield, we have the City Series as the 4 main high schools: Landfair, Southeast, Springfield, Griffin, and there's like a basketball tournament all at. It used to be the Prairie Capital Convention Center. It's now the BOS Center.
Yeah.
BOS Center, correct. One of our sponsors, and it was an electric atmosphere. Every school would be there. Talking shit back and forth, and it was just fun. It was a really fun environment. It felt like almost like a March Madness or something like that, like just exciting. Would you kind of agree in some level?
Yeah.
All right.
No,
cool.
definitely.
And then, so after your sophomore year, we played for the Pan Am team again. So, is it just a foregone conclusion you're on that team again, or do they call you again and say we want you back? Or how does that work?
They called and asked, if I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And it was in Chicago, so it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mexico was fine.
Same roster or similar?
No, you know what? I think there was a couple of us that came back, but not all of us.
Really,
yeah,
a lot of turnover.
I would say half of the players didn't come back.
Okay.
But I'd have to see the roster.
Right.
To remember that. I remember there was a dude named Brad Wilkerson who.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he ended up. He played in the big leagues for a few years with the Expos, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was righty thrower, left-handed hitter, or maybe all left. But they picked him up as a pitcher the first year, and he was such a good hitter that I think he just hit the second year.
What did he do in the show? Was he a position player?
Yeah, I think he played a lot of left field.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that name for sure. Okay. Anything? And this was in Chicago? That's where you went this year?
In Chicago.
This time? Did anything stand out from this experience? Was it different than the last one? Obviously, you're not playing in these crazy Mexican places, but
yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Honestly, not really, man. It's been so long. I don't remember a single. I just remember we played at Kane County Stadium in the championship round.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Minor league field.
Yeah, and that was one of the best stadiums I had played in at that point.
That's cool.
So I do remember that, but I remember Snoop and Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre, The Chronic came out that year.
Oh man!
What
an album!
Yeah, we had little. I had these little speakers that plug into a Discman.
Yeah.
And we were rocking that most of the time. I do remember that.
All time.
Well, like I said before, man, just the time you spend with the dudes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily on the field is the kind of stuff you remember.
That's the dang truth. Well, then, I guess we can move on to – I mean, it's obviously an honor to play for them again. You know, you get to play 2 years for Team USA. Really cool. Would scouts have been at these games, do you think?
I bet.
Yeah?
I bet they were. Right? Yeah, I didn't –
dumb not to go to these games if you're a scout.
I mean, yeah, exactly. If you live anywhere close and you're a scout,
these are the best.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to your junior year here. Before we get any further, when did you commit? So you ended up committing to U of I. Would that have been your junior or senior year?
I think senior year, sometime early on, maybe.
Okay.
I remember sitting down with Itchy Jones, but I didn't sign anything.
Really?
Because I knew I wasn't going to Illinois.
You never signed?
I knew no.
Really?
And I think it might have affected my draft status, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew if I was going to school, I was going to Kentucky. I was going to play football.
Really?
Yeah.
But Itch didn't know that.
Huh?
Itch didn't know that.
He didn't. and he was upset when I told him that I was going to sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he told me it was going to be a big mistake or something and whatever.
Man, isn't that crazy that you and Casey had like a similar experience? Like you both decommitted from U of I.
Yeah.
And it sounded like, I mean, I don't want to put words in Casey's mouth, but like I don't think Itchy was super kind to him when that conversation went down.
He was stroking you, and then when you said you weren't coming, he was kind of an asshole to you.
You know, there's a lot of people talk about Itch in terms of him not being the nicest guy or the easiest guy to get along with. You know, so that kind of falls in line to some degree. Well, all right, let's move on to your junior year then. So, third in batting in the CS8, 419, 5 dings, 85 at bats. It looks like they're pitching around you a lot. Is that what you remember?
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so because everything went down, right?
Well, I imagine at this point, I mean, are you just seeing nothing but like off speed and curves and sliders and
a lot
pitching around you? Like, why would you pitch to you? Was that? I mean, I imagine it's a long time ago, but frustrating.
Yeah. The good thing is, we had a pretty good team, so it wasn't like I didn't have guys hitting around me, so they could just walk me all the time.
Who were some of those dudes on that Lanfear team that you're talking about like that were pretty good?
Well, Eric Lewey.
Yeah.
I think he and I flip-flop from hitting leadoff and third back and forth.
Okay.
I think they would put me lead me off to basically dare him to throw me a fastball,
Right. Sure.
Joe Schroeder pitched for us.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Jason.
Yeah.
Bridgewater. Can't remember Bridgewater's first name. Yeah.
That's good.
I feel bad, man. I should know every single player on that team.
It's okay, buddy.
We're 30 years deep, though.
That's a long time ago, my man.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next, Adam Springer, man. I love this dude. He's a family friend of ours. I know he's a longtime friend of yours. Cardinal Cleaning is one of our sponsors.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. We're talking about junior year, right? For some reason, I was thinking
Well, I
senior year.
was just kind of thinking like all your time at Lanphier.
No, Joel mentioned, Frank Kovic pitching for us.
Yeah.
So Frank, Joel. I mean, I played with those two guys
a lot.
Yeah, since I was probably 4.
Love that.
You know.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. You ready for some Springer stuff?
Sure.
Cool, man. Love this guy. He's hysterical. 9 or 10 when I first met Corey, hearing about the other good guys in the area. Everyone knew he was the World Series MVP when he was 14 for the Pt.2 Storm. It was a huge deal. Absolutely dominating in sports coming up. Very unassuming, but you would never know that he was the best player on the field or who the best player on the field was. Not the biggest, but you would be looking out at short and be like, uh-oh. You're like, huh, I've never seen anyone do that before. Always playing up multiple years. It's debatable, but my vote is for Corey being the greatest CS8 athlete of all time. An absolute lockdown defender in basketball. I remember playing him and feeling, I talked about this, so helpless, like a little child. Like I literally can't do anything. He won't even let me get around him. So here we go. Wait, I already did that. I already did the Springer Hester one, so we're not doing that again. Anyway, careful what you wish for. This way is way worse. So he was talking about Hester had to have showed up to play you guys and looking around like, okay, Chukudebe, TJ Jumper, the Walkers, this 5'10" dude's gonna guard me, sweet, and then it's like, oh no, I did not want this.
Right. Right.
I hate this. One CS8 football his first year as the CS8 conference. Here we go, Springer. So tough, I'm in trouble.
It's the same thing. I mean, it's just general toughness and, just, I guess, a little unassuming. I mean, you wouldn't, he didn't just stand out until you're on the floor or on the field or on the court with him. And then you're like, oh, man, like, I'm in trouble. Like, he's way better than me. And he's 5, I'm sure he'll say he's 5'10" or 11. I would probably say 5'9". But, I mean, you shook his hand, haven't you, Blake?
Oh, my God, gorilla hands and longest arms I've ever seen. Crazy.
Longest arm and hands. Yeah, he's like a 6'7" guy. I mean, it's like it's still that way. I mean,
his hands are like touching his knees. It's crazy.
Yes, and always been that way. I mean, especially when he was really little and his arms are just almost literally to the ground. It was crazy.
Okay, and moving forward, he was so unassuming that people slept on him and might have wrote him off as soft. But that is the opposite of what Corey Erickson is. And then they stepped on the field with him, and they were in for the rudest awakening in their life. There are and were a ton of good baseball players from the Springfield area that played a little varsity as a freshman. And Corey, played every inning and never played JV or freshman ball. It's just incredible. Junior and senior year were absolutely dominant. We had some really strong baseball in that era. And Corey was heads and shoulders above everybody else. Corey was known for pulling the ball. I believe Bob wanted him to, not sure. He even could hit it the opposite way, but he didn't have to. No one could get a fastball by him, and his arms were so long that he had complete plate coverage. I bet I've seen him hit 3 home runs fouling in a bat at least 10 times, and that's by no means an exaggeration. It was nothing for him to hit 450-foot bombs, foul over and over again. Didn't matter how hard they threw or where. His arms, here we go, were so long that he had complete plate coverage always, and his bat speed was so unreal that it was impossible to get anything by him. Unbelievable fielder. His range was unreal. His backhand play was something I'll always remember. Had to be upper 80s at minimum from across the diamond. Very slick, very fluid. Most accurate arm I've ever seen. He was always in the right spot. Incredible baseball IQ. Moving on, Corey was never too up or too down, and because of that, some might have thought he wasn't in the game, but that's the furthest thing from the truth. He got fired up in his own way. It was always in the game. It was always about winning with Corey, not emotion. Visited me a few times in college. We would get some hacks in, have some fun. Here we go. You got to ask Corey the Bo Hart story, and it's funny because I had Bo Hart on here as a guest, and I didn't even realize the connection until I started going through all this stuff. And so if you guys don't know, Bo Hart was with the Cardinals. He had a big moment with the Cardinals in 2003 where he got called up and essentially had the month of his life and hit, set records for how high he hit. But he goes, Springer said, I believe Corey was leading the league in home runs at the time. It was going to get called up and went, over for a couple weeks, and that kind of, derailed what was happening. And he believes you were told or someone kind of gave you a wink that you were being thought of to be called up during that time. Do you have any thoughts on that, or?
Nah, he might be talking about. My last year, obviously we'll get into that later, but I think I had told him one time. It didn't have anything to do with Bo Hart.
Okay.
But I was. Oh, maybe it did. Maybe Bo got bumped, and we knew they'll need some, a middle infielder to go up to Memphis because I was in. It was in Double A at the time.
Smokies.
And yeah, I was having a pretty good year up until around the All-Star break, and that's about when he went up.
Got the call.
But I think I went 0 for 20 something.
Yeah.
And pretty much squashed that one.
Your mom talked about that you were kind of a streaky player. She said there'd be times when it was just nothing but bombs, and then in pro ball, and then there'd be times when it was a lot of strikeouts. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I definitely a streaky hitter.
Yeah.
You know as well as I do. Home runs come in bunches.
Yeah.
And strikeouts can do the same.
Oh man, that's the truth. He believes you were the minor league player of the year in the Mets organization in your first or second year. Is that? You remember anything like that, or is that true? I couldn't find that.
Yeah, there's they call it a Doubleday award.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Doubleday is. Is it Abner Doubleday? Abner Doubleday.
Yep.
I think that's what the award was based on, but they just there's an MVP at every level every year.
Okay.
And they fly you up to New York. I think that was my second year. I was the MVP for the Mets in the New York Penn on their New York Penn League team.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty cool deal. They fly up to New York and announce you before the game.
Yeah. Man, that's cool. Always a great friend. Will be a great friend of mine till the day I die. A fantastic guy. This is cool. So he had apparently you gave him some advice about one of his boys who he was kind of feeling. One of his boys was kind of younger, and Spring was feeling a little frustrated that he wasn't really showing a lot of prowess yet in baseball. And this is so cool because it ties in line with what Casey said, with what Bobby said about a big thing in the Erickson family is you're playing catch, and you're dotting them in the chest. So here we go. Springer, he'll be fine. Just play catch.
In his true demeanor, he's he'll be fine. Just watch. And he was right. It was just a patient thing. He just wasn't a kid that was ever good, and then all of a sudden he's okay now. It's one of those things. But I'll never forget him telling me, he's just be patient. He goes, play catch with him. So that's the thing now. So when people ask me, the coach, and whatever, and I got it from Corey, and he's like, what can I do? He's 6, he's 7, he's 8, he's 9, he's 10. He's like, play catch, play catch. When you can really, really play catch, then you can start doing other things. But until you can't, if you can't play catch, you can't play baseball. And that's what I learned from him. It was 15 years ago, or probably more than that now. And that's just him just talking. He wasn't trying to motivate me. That was just me running into him somewhere, and he's just talking to me. It's just how he does.
Perfect.
Do you remember this at all?
Somewhat. I mean, when
it's cool.
When Springer and I get together, it's usually a chance encounter, and we end up talking about baseball. For sure.
Yeah.
And when your kids are young, that's what you talk about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Sure.
And we were both baseball players, so
yeah.
And it is, man. It makes you nervous when you know there's other kids on your kid's team that can do things better than what your kid can do. You know, and it makes you panic a little bit.
I could
right?
tell. Yeah,
you know?
I could understand that.
Yeah. But you know, it's either going to happen or it isn't. You know, and that's something I've learned. You know, that's something I've learned raising my kids.
Right.
You know, it's you sit there and worry about it, and you're not helping.
Right.
You know.
What does that help at all?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Trust me, it took me a long time to
come to that place.
Yeah. To come to that, but yeah, I mean, and you know my boys did fine.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And still are doing fine. Just, but I mean, he was kind of panicking. He's like, dude, my kid sucks. You know. I mean, he didn't say it like that, but
right.
You know, I could tell, and it's like,
yeah.
You know, you just, were you gonna catch it for him? You know,
right?
Are you gonna hit for him?
That's the truth.
Just let it happen.
Yeah, and I know it could be so easy as a dad to want your kid to be. Of course, you want him to follow and play the game that you know the most about and love and but you can't do it for him, right? Yeah. I'm not there yet. I've got my little boy is 2 years old, but you know, I do stick a bat in his hands. I'm like, you want to hit off the tee, buddy? You know, stuff like that.
Sure.
And, yeah. So, but I've already come to peace in my head. I've talked to enough dads that I'm not gonna force it on him. You know, if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. I remember, I'm sure you've played with guys that, their dad kind of forced them to, or it was more their dad who wanted them to play, and that just never ends well.
Yeah.
You know, they resent the game, they get burnt out. So if they love it, they love it, and you just gotta nurture it, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, just expose it to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. And that's all right. He was always the best player around here, one of the best teammates ever. Had a lot of God-given strength, born with it. Not that he didn't work out, but he was definitely blessed in that area. This was funny. He remembers Casey being at the games and always begging, you know, for people to play catch with him. And he'd be like, "Get out of here, you little puke!" But he was like, he goes, "I bet I've played catch with Casey, 200 times."
Yeah.
He goes, there you go. I played catch with Casey 200 times. Corey would have been a big leaguer in today's game, making him around $200 million with his fielding versatility, all the bombs. He would have been valued differently. And man, I can't wait to get there. But it's the truth, man. Today's game's different. I mean, obviously, in today's game, you can hit low twos if you're hitting, 20, 30 jacks, and you're playing really solid defense and have versatility. You're valued different, man. Man.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's an interesting thing for you to think about, and we'll get there. I don't want to dive into that yet. Yeah. Zero negatives about Corey Erickson. Would lean on him for anything. Meant a lot to me growing up then and now. An absolute baseball dude. Could have played D1 as a safety D-back. He shared with me a story about you being fearless, and essentially you guys were at U of I and you jumped up on a balcony on the 24th floor, and like a railing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And you peed off it or something like that, but just that you were standing on a railing, 2-inch railing. You make a little slip up, you're dead.
Right.
And stuff like that. Yeah. Least scared of heights.
It's not smart.
Of anyone I've ever met. He is not afraid. Let's leave it at that. And then I've got one more clip here. Springer, least afraid of heights.